David Price takes the mound for his first start in a Blue Jays uniform. It is a supercharged atmosphere, and the only question will be whether or not David Price can control his emotions here today. It's been a great start to his afternoon.
David Price, 8 innings, has allowed 1 run and leads the Twins 5-1 with 11 strikeouts as he waves to the crowd with his cap. What a moment. He pats his heart, walks down the steps of the third base dugout, and the Blue Jays right now are certainly enjoying David Price, and he's certainly enjoying this environment.
Different class of pitchers in the league. You know, anybody who's pitching, starting pitcher in the big leagues is good, you know, and then there's the guys, you know, that kind of separate themselves. And, you know, David's at the top. He's one of those guys, but that's what they do. You know, and a perfect example is, I think it was the 4th inning, he's got the bases loaded, no outs. You know, he gets out of that unscathed, and then, but beyond that, that's when a lot of guys cave after that. You know, it takes so much out of you to finish an inning, and then it gets tougher the rest of the game. They don't last 8 innings anyway. So that's kind of a telltale sign right there. And I think he really enjoyed it. You know, he's a very, very focused guy, and great way to make your debut for your new team. I think people are real excited about the moves Alex made, and I think it's definitely created a lot more optimism. That's for sure. And we've responded. We played pretty good during that stretch, which is the key part of it. So, but yeah, it's when a full house, when they're into it, it's definitely a different feeling.
Wow, I mean that was hands down the best atmosphere I've ever pitched in. I mean I've pitched in playoff games and in Fenway, that place is unbelievable. In Baltimore, I didn't think I'd ever hear a playoff atmosphere like that there, and in Detroit as well. And in Tampa, it's in that dome with those kettlebells. It gets really loud. But today, that takes the cake, man. That was crazy.
Sportsfeld! It is Sportsfeld Storytime. We are charged up for episode 3, David Price's debut with the Blue Jays. We got some clarifications. The song Charged Up came out July 31st. So obviously I had been drinking for 3 days and listening to nothing but. Obviously.
I mean, I feel like there was is that the summer where If You're Reading This came out? Because I feel like Drake had a big part. Drake had a big part in soundtracking the 2015 Jays. Like, as you said, there's the aforementioned back-to-back. And then obviously Big Rings was like the anthem for September.
Yes, If You're Reading This came out February 13th, 2015. Energy was his single. It came out July 10th. Right. So, yes. Absolutely correct.
Right, and then obviously Jose had it as his walk-up music, and
yes,
it kind of went from there.
What a Time to Be Alive came out in September. So that's probably, I believe Big Rings was on What a Time. So that would have been just in time for the playoff run. As well, OVO Fest this year is when you get Kevin Durant in a fucking David Price jersey of all things.
Right. And we were all convinced it was happening.
I talked to Kevin Durant during the game. He came just to see you and thought it was amazing to be a part of this. And also, I showed you that video of him cheering with the rest of the crowd. What do you think of that when you see a guy of his stature here, like a fan watching you?
That blows me away. I mean, it's probably the coolest thing I've had happen to me, fan-wise, for somebody like that. He's in town obviously for what's going on, this week and weekend in Toronto, but this is a day game. I'm sure he had a lot of fun last night, and today started at 1. And when you showed me that video, that was thanks, Kevin, KD Trey, Durantula. It's awesome.
I believe Drake ended up getting a fine for that, more or less.
I think so, yeah.
Not for the jersey, but he went on stage and said, "We want Kevin Durant to play for the Raptors." What, at the risk of using Drake's album, which we said a lot at the time, what a time to be alive, quite literally.
Yes. That was definitely a thing to say.
Truly. But we get into the baseball game. David Price has done his warm-up, and which they showed on television, as you said. He got a standing ovation for going to the bullpen. He got a standing O for leaving the bullpen. He got a standing O from going to the dugout, to the mound. We're 3 standing O's deep. I teared up during O Canada of this game. I had been, drinking for 4 days and had been to a wedding and was certain that I loved my girlfriend and was very, 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 very excited. By the way, small thing, because she's near me right now, she was sort of mad at me for inviting Zach to that game instead of her.
That's how you know it's meant to be.
No.
Yes, you.
All happened before all the trades. I was like, I'm off Monday. We should go to the game.
Yes. Before the trades, she had said that she was off Monday and we should go to the game. And
you went with Zach. You went with Zach anyway, huh?
I went with my best friend of 10 years. Instead of the girl I had been dating for 2.5 months. Excuse me.
How did she ever forgive you? Truly.
I know. Somehow, some way. Listen, it was. I remember you said that there were nerves in your end, and that is totally true. But oh baby, did he ever immediately smash that to bits? Brian Dozier, no chance strikeout swinging. Eduardo Nunez, no chance strikeout swinging. Tipper Plouffe, a little limp fly ball to center field, 3 up, 3 down.
First strikeout of the afternoon. David Price has always pitched well in this ballpark.
Between those 2 pitches.
There's a high fly ball to center. Pilar battling the sun, using that glove as a shade. David Price has an inning under his belt as a Blue Jay.
The place is like, we're going nuts. We're hugging strangers. We're screaming. And I will say this. Obviously, there's been a lot of great moments that happen in this run. This run specifically. I don't know that there was a better top to bottom, the whole day is just gravy, than the David Price start, because they were still a 500 team, but it was the first big sellout other than the Royals game the day before. But it was this huge event, as you said. You couldn't get in, and we were waiting for this one thing to happen, and it delivered on every end. The playoffs obviously were exciting, and the bat flip is a great moment, but it's preceded with such a low, and there's nerves and there's things on the line. David Price Day, start to finish, is just pure ecstasy as far as it goes.
Yeah. Oh man, because it was that perfect blend of a game that wasn't actually high stakes. So if they had lost, it would have been a letdown, but it wouldn't have been like how we felt after game 2 of the ALDS kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like it was like we said, it was an early August game, but it had that perfect mix of being low stakes, all things considered, and then also being a celebration of the fact that the Blue Jays were finally doing something and going for it, and then being a celebration of the fact we got David Price, and then being a celebration of the fact that David Price was awesome.
Yes. It wasn't all, he didn't totally mow everybody down. He pretty much did, but there was some, in the second inning, Torrey Hunter hit a home run. It was 1-0 Twins, and it just, he just didn't even blink. Immediately struck out the next 2 guys. It was absolutely nothing. There's a couple things that I really took from this that I would just man, I haven't seen a Blue Jays pitcher do that since Halladay, and it was, he bounced back from a home run, and we'll talk about this in the 4th inning, but he just didn't let things rattle him. It was so incredible and so impressive. The Jays get it back immediately in the bottom half because Ryan Goins hits a home run. Ryan Goins, who will later on not help David Price, does help him in the second inning by making this a 1-1 game.
Cost us the World Series. I'll never let it go.
In the 3rd, Kurt Suzuki hits a ground rule double, and it's maybe David Price is going to get not perfect, but he gets a bunt pop out. That's stupid. He strikes out Brian Dozier again. Brian Dozier has a terrible day, and then he gets a ground out from first base. So he's through 3.
Rosario thought he had one.
3 strikeouts for David Price. David Price, after the home run, strikes out Rosario and Aaron Hicks. Has that good fastball. Another strikeout for Price. He gets Dozier for a second time this afternoon. Bounces this one to Smoke. He will flip to Price. The inning is over.
He's given up 2 hits. He's already struck out 5. Yeah, he struck out 5 in 3 innings. He's cruising. And then the 4th. This is where it goes from like the only moment of the entire day that isn't pure like joy is the 4th inning.
Yeah.
Starts
but
out
I would
with a
say
double.
I would say that the fact it wasn't joy is what made the whole thing so joyful, because this happened and it happened the way it did. It was like we were like the confidence level of all of us at that point was impossible.
This to me, the 4th inning to me is the best part of the entire day.
Yeah.
Because like it shows all he has to offer. It's not just he strikes everybody out and he's never in trouble. Trevor Plouffe doubles, Miguel Sano walks, and then Torrey Hunter, who hit the home run, also walks. So bases loaded, nobody out, 1-1 game, heart of the order coming out. He gets a pop out, and then he gets a really good call on the Aaron Hicks strikeout. I'll say it. That's a really good call. But the 1-2 pitch in the outside corner, either you swing it or you don't. He didn't. And then he gets Kurt Suzuki swinging. The place erupts again. We're standing. We're screaming. David Price is the only guy for us at this. That was when I was like, okay, I'm 100% sold. Top of the 4th is as good as it gets for me.
David Price makes a perfect pitch on the outside corner. Hicks strikes out for a second time. Suzuki, bases loaded, nobody out. Tulowitzki makes a fine catch on a pop-up in center, and then David Price takes over. He strikes out Aaron Hicks and Kurt Suzuki to leave the bases loaded. David Price pitching out of a tough jam in the 4th.
You were cruising along until about the 4th inning, but you got yourself out of that bases loaded, nobody out jam. What's going through your head? What are you telling yourself as you're battling through that inning?
Just get this first guy in and see what happens. You know, if I can get that first guy with nobody scoring, I'm 1 pitch away. And that was my mindset. And Tulo made a really good play on that shallow fly ball to center and turned around and made a good throw home. And then, being able to get those next 2 guys was very big. Kurt is a guy that's always hit me really well, and he's always putting together really good at-bats. And being able to get him for that 3rd out was huge.
Oh, yeah. That was like when the Raptors got Kawhi. We spent a lot of time talking about the idea that the Raptors have always been the team that got rattled and the team that was too emotional and that couldn't keep their heads. And then Kawhi was going to come in and fix all that. And we said that all year, and it happened, and we were right, which is wonderful because I love being right. And then this was kind of that moment for me with Price, where it was like he's literally in a sold-out building with bases loaded, nobody out. Everyone there is just there to watch him be great. And like it didn't even faze him. And it was just like, all right, I got it. It's fine.
Yes, to your Kawhi point, this is the moment that Drew Hutchison gives up the runs. This is the moment that Dickey gets absolutely lit up and they lose 7-2. This is the moment where the new guy they bring in, the star they bring in that they paid all their prospects for, completely shits the bed and is terrible, and the trade looks idiotic. This is the moment that the Yankee fans are like laughing at. But no, 2 strikeouts and a pop-out, no run score. And I'll tell you what, nobody else does anything against David Price for the rest of this game. That is it. That was even the crazier part, is like they get bases loaded, nobody outs, and then nobody gets on base the rest of the fucking game. Like, ridiculous.
He gave him the opening, and that was it.
And that was so refreshing. And the third takeaway, that there was 3 big things, was obviously the efficiency, the way he didn't get rattled, and when he was facing somebody like Kurt Suzuki or Eduardo Nunez, somebody that he was straight up better than. He just didn't waste his time. If he was better than the guy, he got them out. Like he didn't worry. He didn't pitch around guys. He didn't nibble. It was very Halladay-esque in that way, that if he knew he had the advantage, he dared lesser hitters to do something about it, and they basically never ever did.
Yeah, and it was really fun watching, like, from the style of that Blue Jays rotation didn't have the guy who was just like, here's a 97 mile an hour fastball, fuck you. Yeah. Like, Stroman's the ground ball guy. Burley was Mark Burley. Dickey obviously had the knuckleball. Estrada was the changeup guy. All very fun to watch in their own ways. But Price was the only one who was like, you're just not hitting this.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing you can do. I'm placing this on the corner and it's going 97 and you're not touching it.
Your Baseball Reference official what happens in the fifth is ground out third base weak, ground out shortstop weak, ground out shortstop, and then bottom five was one of those beautiful statements. Tulowitzki singles, and then Josh Donaldson. I mean, what do you think happens? Josh Donaldson with a runner on. Forget about it.
I think
we're charged up.
We're going to I don't think that Josh Donaldson's 2015 is fully appreciated, as much as an MVP season can be.
That's a take, because he gets thrown into like best Blue Jay conversations. He doesn't ever win them, but he gets thrown in there with basically on the strength of this year and next year.
I just feel like it wasn't even that, not even stats wise, but he had that air about him where it was just like, oh, okay, he's hitting this out now.
Yeah.
Like, he was the guy who every game where it mattered, you were like, all right.
As if he ended that season with a walk-off home run in the final home game of the season.
I will never. That game, I remember Lund had to go to work, and he came down, like, about to leave the house for work. Donaldson was up, and he just kind of looked at the TV and was like, well, he's hitting this out. Next pitch, and he walked out the door.
Josh Donaldson with 3 walk-off hits this season. And he's done it again! Get out of here! Home run!
That was emblematic of how Donaldson worked that year. It's like, oh, a big moment? Yeah, he's probably going to hit it.
That's how you win an MVP award. Hits like that. His 10th career walk-off hit. His 3rd walk-off home run of the season.
I think he just won the MVP this afternoon with that
hit. The 7th, Price goes strikeout, fly out, ground out. And then, listen, when the top half of the Blue Jays order was up, you really... we talk about the Blue Jays, 2015 Blue Jays a lot, obviously, because we love that team a lot. But, like, it's hard to even explain now, 5 years later, that, like, if the top 4 guys came up in an inning, you only had 2 or 3 chances per game to make sure that didn't ruin the game for you. Like, legitimately getting through that was the whole game of the team. Tulowitzki walks, Donaldson grounds out, Batista strikes out, Edwin hits a single, Smokey hits a single. Now it's 4-1, and I want to say Price is well over 100 pitches already and is not coming out of this game.
Changeup. Tulowitzki is short. In plenty of time. Sano chases that changeup. Another strikeout for Price. 8. Hunter strikes out. Strikeout number 9 for David Price, much to the delight of this full house.
It's in game.
That never hurts to be able to throw 95 away from a left-hander. Hernandez has 1,272. This will be a ground ball to short. Tulowitzki.
Yeah, and to your point about the top of the lineup, it really was. I've never experienced this with any other team in my life, in any sport, really. Even the Raptors last year. Like, it really was like the Jays, and this happened multiple times. They'd be down like 5-0 after one, and you just wouldn't care.
Yeah.
You just be like, well, they have 9 innings to score 6. Then that's probably fine.
It was,
and they'd score like 11.
The lineup this day was Tulowitzki, Donaldson, Batista, Encarnacion, Smoke, Martin, Goins, Pilar, Revere. Exactly. We were still hitting Tulo leadoff. He eventually would move out of that spot just because he didn't like hitting first. But boy, oh boy, that's just there's no room anywhere for that.
No, like you can't. Like maybe you get away with like Goins or Revere, but if Revere gets on, his speed's going to burn you with those guys after him. I guess Goins is sort of the aberration, but he was only there because Travis was hurt again anyway. So
yes, and
truly a ridiculous lineup.
Revere hit 320 as a Blue Jay. Like he was unbelievable as a Blue Jay. He was really, really good with the Blue Jays. David Price comes out for the 8th inning, and it's like, oh, that another like this dude is just built differently. He is at well over 100 pitches. He comes out for the 8th. It's another strikeout, his 11th of the game. It's a fly out to center, and then a 4-3 ground out on an 0-2 pitch. He only threw 4 pitches in the at bat.
Changeup, called strike 3. Ground ball, Goins at second, quickly to first. In time, David Price will walk off the mound in the 8th. He's retired 15 straight after the Twins had the bases loaded in the 4th.
David Price and finishes with 119 pitches, 80 for strikes. He faces 29 batters. He gives up 1 home run, 1 run, 3 hits, 2 walks, and strikes out 11. About as good a debut as you will ever see. 18 swinging strikes, 15 looking strikes, 8 ground balls, 8 fly balls, 2 line drives. Holy cow. That is among the best games I've ever seen.
I don't think I realized, and like I'm sure I knew it at the time, but like just looking at sort of the game score now, that he was perfect after the 4th.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah.
Like, damn.
Perfect without, and when we look at it, like it's perfect, and it's ground out, fly out, strikeout, fly out, ground out, strikeout, fly out, ground out. He's perfect, and there's not even hard contact. Like it's perfect, and balls that you know are not going to do anything. It was an absolute masterpiece as far as pitching performances go.
God.
Yep.
And we got to see LaTroy Hawkins close it out. So like all the acquisitions were helping.
Everybody. You're in terms of like win expectancy, the top 5 plays of the game. The first 2, number 1 is Donaldson's home run, obviously, to make it 3-1. Obviously, that tilts the score. The 2 home runs, 1 from Goins and 1 from Hunter, are 2 and 3 to take a lead and to cut the lead. But the 4th and 5th by game score, most important plays of this game are the strikeout on Aaron Hicks and the strikeout on Kurt Suzuki. He is so directly responsible.
9% added win expectancy from a strikeout. That rules.
Back to back.
In a tie game also.
On back to, like, those 2 pitches are 18% of the win is in those 2 strikeouts. Now, obviously, that's rules. Not, that isn't a be-all, end-all stat, but it just goes to show you, like,
rules.
That's huge. And as you said, it is in the score sheet, in the stat book, it is 2 big strikeouts in the 4th inning of a game, but also with your first game as on a new team in front of the first sellout in forever, on a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 2 decades, on a team that desperately needs an ace, in front of a crowd that is very rowdy and very ready for this moment and is there just to see you. I mean, that's as big as 2 at-bats get in regular season for the Blue Jays.
Yeah, it's like...
Maybe I'm overselling it. I don't know.
No, I don't think you are. I think it's hard to explain this game to people who weren't there in a lot of ways. Just because, you talk about... I mean, I think it's actually very similar to how we sort of make fun of the fact that we still look back on the 2015 Jays, even though they didn't win the World Series. Like, it's very much from an abstract sense, kind of ridiculous that this early August game against the Twins was so impactful. But it's also very silly that we watch flashback videos of this team all the time. But that's just kind of what this season and this team was all about.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely right. And John Gibbons was a manager. That's what really matters.
Yeah, of course.
Another small thing, Irvin Santana, of all pitchers, was the guy on the other end. Hard to believe. Right?
What adventures we would go on with Irvin Santana.
No kidding. At the end of the game, 3:30 p.m., I write, so that's what this feels like. Wow. Absolutely right. A look at some of the sample questions from we put questions out for Sportsfeld that day, and some of the sample questions. What will galvanize Toronto more, Jays in the playoffs or Raptors in the playoffs last year? What's your take on the Drake Meek Mill beef? That's where we were. Am I an idiot for stressing out over Noah Syndergaard? If the Jays beat the Royals in the playoff series and that's as far as they go, is the season a success?
Obviously not.
Look at this one. Here's a prescient one from August 2015. If Donald Trump bought the Jays and renamed them the Trumps, would you still support them and the Trump empire? That's crazy. That's a crazy question. August 3rd, 2015.
I guess he was still sort of like the joke at that point.
Yeah.
Before it became like, oh, you're the worst fucking person alive.
And from Burroughs, what's the worst thing you do to guarantee the Jays a playoff spot? Don't even need them. They got it anyway.
That's the crazy part. The fact we were like, what would we do to make sure they make the playoffs? And then they just won like 90 games.
Oh baby, what a game! That fourth inning, man. I'll remember that. I'll remember that forever, I think. We return one last episode. We are going to look at the fallout from this, where Price goes from here, our sort of reactions to the rest of the season, and he ended up getting a reputation on the David Price playoff struggles. That and him coming out of the bullpen, all that and more on the next episode of Sportsfeld Storytime.